What is going on? It is Sean Patrick from 98.5 KYGO. I am so pumped for this. Kenn Solomon, who's the guy that was Rocky all these years. What was it, 33 years, Kenn?
From beginning to end, 33, yep.
33.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's a long time. That means you're almost Rocky more than you're Kenn Solomon, right?
Yes. I started when I was 23.
Did you find yourself at times acting like Rocky when you weren't Rocky?
People say that when I'm, at a party or when I'm out, out and doing stuff, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I see Rocky."
For sure.
Yeah.
And Rocky's probably more Kenn than Kenn is Rocky, I would assume, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's any mascot, it's an extension of their personality.
Yeah.
And you have to push your personality, your feelings, your emotions through fabric, through layers, and get that out there. So it's always exuding.
For sure.
Yeah.
If somebody really wanted to know who Rocky was during your Rocky years, those 33 years that we talked about, they probably could have Googled and they probably could have found out, or maybe you had interactions in the community where people figured out that you were the guy. But for the most part, you weren't going around waving the flag, "Hey, I'm Kenn Solomon, I'm also Rocky." And so why now? Why are you starting to tell the story now?
Well, I'm not, of course, I'm not employed by them anymore, and or any of my family. And Solomons are out of the Nuggets, and so I started a podcast some years ago, and I thought, when I did, I was thinking I need to. There's stories that I have. I mean, I have a ton of stories, but I also have friends that have, just so much to tell, and so I started having all these other mascots on and other entertainers and things, and just to share the moments. Some are great, some are awesome, some are big, some are fails, some are also the tender moments that you have one-on-ones with families and with people that are in real need, and
sure.
that are people that are suffering. And I did I did a birthday party for 100-year-old man just shortly before I ended, and what a special experience.
I bet.
Well,
I want to talk as we get into this a little bit more, and I told you this before we started, before the cameras came on, but I want to get more into those kind of moments in this interview, and I'll mention this a bunch throughout this podcast today, but there's a Westword article, and we're in no means related to Westword. They're friends of ours, but I want to encourage people to go read that article because it really tells the story of Kenn Solomon as Rocky from start to finish, how it happened, all of that sort of stuff. So go check that out. This is going to be more about like individualized moments today, and some of your favorite moments, some of the embarrassing moments, just stories. And so before we get into some of that, though, if you had to, I don't even know what they call that on the back of a book. If you're about to read a book, there's like a summary, right? And so in a nutshell, tell your story in that little summary on the back of the book.
Wow. Okay. The little condensed version here. I was always an odd kid and leaned into that and started just being a mime and being, leaning into all this, like I said. And, one day I saw the San Diego chicken. I thought, oh my gosh, that guy gets paid for that. And, started mascotting in high school, put myself through college doing it with scholarships, and ended up working my way into a job with the Nuggets, getting them to notice me and get invited to the tryouts. And that was in 1990.
33 years, as you mentioned. The rest is history.
Yeah,
the rest is history. You don't strike me, and I could be wrong. I'm profiling you for sure right now, but you don't strike me as much of a country guy with the blue goatee. Am I wrong?
You're wrong. I listen to everything.
Okay,
and I have a lot of friends that are no country allowed. But that is not me.
Okay, yeah, I get it. I bring this up because over the years, the Nuggets always would partner up with the National Western Stock Show, right? And you guys would do stuff. And so Rocky became very country, very cowboy, at least one night a year, most of those years. So talk to me about some of those memories.
Oh, yeah. We had a great partnership with them. In fact, the guy that is the head of National Western Stock Show over there is retiring soon.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine. He used to be the CEO of the Nuggets or of Cronky Sports, and boy, we that partnership was great. I have a lot of friends that ended up over there,
Yeah.
and yeah, love going over the National Western Stock Show. It's a mouthful, but
So Rocky would put on a cowboy hat
Yep.
and chaps and
Yep,
all
and
kinds of
chaps.
stuff. Was like the costuming ideas when he wouldn't be in his normal attire? Was that all from you? Was that all your brainchild, or was there people behind the scenes that were like, "Hey, Rocky needs to be a cowboy tonight"?
yeah, when we were doing things like that, I virtually have I should say I have a virtual costume shop in my basement.
Okay.
Like I have everything down
Yeah.
there, and the costumes I just I keep for the next year or whatever, and I've got all the country stuff and all the chaps, the cowhide chaps and things like that. But I kind of had a team
Okay.
of my assistant first of all, and for the last few years it was my sons. It was Cade, he's sitting over here, and Drake, who actually took over for me for a stint there at the end, and they always put the fine little touches on things for me. Oh, you need this, it'd be great if you had that or whatever. And then sometimes there was input from the actual organization and our department and.
That makes sense. And a lot of things happened on the fly, too. I was telling you before we got on camera that I was a season ticket holder during the Carmelo Anthony years. And there was one game that was just like burned into my mind vividly. Carmelo got a bloody nose and he was wearing like tissue up his nostrils. And next thing you know, Rocky comes out and he's got tissue up his nostrils. Is that stuff that you see? And
you have to play on quickly. You have to, if something happens, how can I add to it without mocking it? And there's a couple times I crossed the line or the other team thought I crossed the line. Yeah. But you got to roll with that stuff. And the quicker you are, obviously, the better everything is. In fact, with Carmelo, I had a headband
that
I would wear
that
with braids.
Yep.
Sewed to it.
There was I'm pretty sure it was an illegal street vendor, but there was somebody that was selling them in the parking lot on your way out, like they'll sell T-shirts sometimes, and I still have mine because Rocky had one. I had to have one too, so I had the headband with the braids as well.
That's great. Yeah, I wish I would have teamed up with that guy.
Yeah, no kidding, right? No kidding. So why retirement? Why did you decide it was time to hang it up? Because let's be honest, I mean, maybe you're 58, right?
Yep.
You're 58 years old, and maybe you're not as agile, you're not as young as you once were, but you could still go out there and you could pull it off. So why'd you hang it up?
Good question. I wanted to give my son the opportunity to jump in. He'd been chomping at the bit to get there, and so that was a lot of it. It was time. I'm still healthy. I'm still performing. I'm still doing things, and everything. But when it came right down to it, so I hung it up temporarily in 2021.
Right.
My son jumped in there, and he had a great first season. Then he had some health issues halfway through the next, where he had to have surgery. They asked me to jump back in. I ended the second half of the season of 23 and ended with a championship game.
Right.
I thought, okay, you can't write this.
Storybook.
When I was the last game that I did in 21 was it was still coming out of COVID. I was stuck in a spot where I couldn't roam the crowd. And at the end, I literally just stood up on the railing, and because it was up in an ADA section, stood up on the railing and just waved. No one knew anything, except the announcer.
Yeah.
And I stood there and waved. We just got knocked out of the playoffs. Tears running down my face, and Kyle says over the mic, let's give it up for Super-Mascot Rocky, and everybody cheered and they started chanting Rocky, Rocky, and it was a nice bow out, and everything, but man, it just felt like something. It just wasn't right,
Yeah.
and gosh, to go out having your last game be the championship game after all those years,
For sure.
I mean, you can't write stuff like that.
No doubt. Did you ever think, man, maybe I'll go be a mascot that's a little more boring? Like I could go be Dinger. He doesn't do anything.
Ouch.
I love Dinger, by the way. I love
Yeah.
it, but he's not as entertaining as Rocky. That's for sure.
Well,
Right?
I appreciate that. Sorry, Dinger. Yeah, no.
How
No.
would you grade?
just-
How would you grade those other mascots in town? By the way, let's go down that path.
Oh man,
You got
no,
Dinger.
please.
You got Miles. Who else do we have? Wooly from the Mammoth.
Wooly, Rapid Man,
Rapid Man. The Avs have the dog. I don't
And
even know the
Bernie.
dog's. What's his Bernie?
Bernie. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Oh man, I can't rate them. There's no way. These are all personal friends of mine.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That
Yeah,
makes
they're
sense.
all good guys. I'm
Yeah.
telling you. Yeah.
Did you get any input? Like when these teams are starting up, I'm assuming Rocky's the first mascot in town, right? And so when all these other teams start coming up with mascot ideas, do they call the guy that's known for mascots in Denver and be like, hey, help us out?
No,
Should they have?
well, I think so. Put some dollars in my pocket. That'd be great. When funny story, when the Rockies were coming, on their way here, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, will you give us a proposal and things like that?" I had another idea for the Rockies, and it was not a purple dinosaur. And they ended up not choosing me to help out. But that's the way it goes. But that's really the only time I've been approached
Okay.
in town to help with that.
I feel like Dinger has one trick. He spins his head around.
Yeah.
That's the only trick that Dinger does. But sometimes that's all right, I guess, right?
Well, he's got known for it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm going to be honest with you, Ken. Dinger kind of freaks me out.
Any dinosaur that can spin his head, well, any character that can spin his head, yeah, probably going to freak some people out.
That is very, very true. We're talking serious stuff for a minute, so let's continue down that path, and let's talk about how, as honest as you can be, how do you feel now that it's not Drake, your son, in the Rocky mascot? How do you feel watching somebody else who you probably don't even know play you?
Ooh, that is getting serious. I wasn't consulted in any of that process, and so I'm not really involved, and I'm not really watching, and I really don't want to.
Yeah.
I just, I'm getting reports here and there, and with different opinions, and people saying kind of derogatory comments, but I just want to. My thing is, I would love the character to live on and be the best that it can be still. But it's something that I'm kind of distancing myself from.
I feel like you would almost have to, right? As somebody else who's involved in the entertainment industry, when you put your heart and soul into something, especially for as long as you did, it can't be easy. It can't be easy to watch somebody else take the reins and do it.
Yeah, and especially when it went against something that, or it just went a different direction than I had ever expected.
Yeah.
And things didn't really end well between in all this, and I can't really get into all that.
Right.
But it's sad that it is the way it is now for me.
But lots of great memories over the years.
Oh my gosh, yes.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And so, do you feel like in your heart that the Nuggets should honor you? I'm not kissing your butt because you're sitting next to me or because I'm a fan and grew up in the city watching you, but I would have to say that bias maybe the best mascot of all time. Should the Nuggets do something to honor Kenn Solomon for 33 years of reinventing the game?
No, that's not what I'm looking for. Honestly, it's no. I mean, the character is a part of me,
Yeah.
and it's got a lot of accolades and a lot of awards and things like that. So that's good enough for me. I think that, there was a lot of, when there was talk of me retiring and everything, there was a lot of talk from early on with different management. There was talk of doing a big exit and doing a big, promotional type of thing. And, I thought that the story that they were coming up with was great. I thought it would be a lot of fun. The mayor was going to be involved and city and things like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's kind of, that's an interesting exit. And I honestly, I could have leaned into that. That would have been fun.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, I'm all about telling stories.
For sure.
And, that's all a mascot does, or good mascot does, is create excitement, tell stories, beginning, middle, and end. There's drama, there's comedy, there's all wrapped up into one. There's excitement, there's fear, so, I would, now to tell these stories is great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm happy that you are too, because it almost feels like that's the end. If we're talking about the life of Rocky and the beginning, the middle, and the end, there almost wasn't going to be an end, an appropriate end, if you will, unless there was something like this where you got to take the Rocky head off and tell the stories. And so I'm happy that you're doing that. And I know there's a lot of Nuggets fans watching. So as we're talking about people the Nuggets should honor, there's a hot button topic out there, and I want your opinion on it. Carmelo. Should they honor Carmelo or not?
Carmelo did a lot of good things. He did a lot of good things. He brought a lot of good attention to the Nuggets at the time. And I think they should. The guy was he was a superstar. He was, in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of controversy about him, surrounding him.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, yeah.
Put his number in the rafters?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Then Jokic is going to have to change his number.
Yeah, that's an issue. That's always an issue, huh?
That's a whole nother subject that we don't have to get into today. So before I want to get into like a rapid fire memories moments thing that we were talking about before. But before we get into that, tell people what you're doing now. What's Kenn Solomon doing now that he doesn't don the Rocky suit?
So I'm writing a book. I'm an entrepreneur. I've got some businesses. Right now, I'm also performing overseas a lot with, this other character, and a lot of stuff in the works. I'm building another business in Wisconsin, and doing my podcasts. And
is there enough demand out there to do like a mascot school? Is that a thing?
Oh my gosh, I've got so many people right now saying you've got to do one. You've got to do one. And others have tried and things, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'll put together a program or something.
There you go. YouTube tutorials.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know how much money you make out of that.
There's a lot. It's interesting. I do get a lot of people reaching out to me. Hey, can you give me tips or skits or what would you recommend? And
for sure,
things like that. Can I shadow you?
Right.
Things like that.
All right, let's talk these rapid fire memories and moments that we were talking about a little bit more. And so I'll just go right into them. I got a little paper full of questions that I want to ask you. So most memorable interaction with a player of an opposing team. Now, I have a feeling it's probably going to be Charles Barkley. So if it is Charles Barkley, that's fine, but you got to give me a second then.
Okay. I got to give you a second. Well, yes. I mean, overall, my interactions with a player, you narrow it down to one, it's Charles Barkley. I had so many. In fact, I'm going back through old videos, cleaning out all of my old VHS tapes and everything. I have so many clips with him and so many interactions over the years. And then to finally, in the playoffs in 23, be able to do a jersey exchange where I got one last final punch on him. I mean, beginning to end, there's a story. Yeah. And, there was even one point where the Nuggets build the game as come see Rocky take on Charles Barkley.
That's crazy.
That was so fun. When I saw that, that kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah, where's the raised, right?
Right? I wasn't going to go there, but thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So Charles was first, as most of us would have guessed. Who was your second favorite opposing team player or most memorable opposing team player?
Wow. Okay. So I did some stuff with the mailman,
Yeah.
Karl Malone. He was great. I did some commercials with him. We just found one. And let's see. I did a lot with Dennis Rodman as well.
That
He was-
Westword article mentions the bottle.
Yep. I did another bit where he was wearing green hair at the time, and it was right around Christmas. So we did a Chia Pet Rodman, you know, and I did a whole video where Rocky's hair was growing. And,
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah,
I love that.
And he was, for the most part, he was really fun. But every once in a while, I'm like, "Hey, Dennis, how you doing?" Act like he never saw me before.
Wasn't feeling it.
I just didn't. Like, yeah, some little switch there.
Weird
flipped.
dude. I mean, weird's cool, but he's a weird dude.
Yeah, he's out there.
Yeah,
he's
no-
interesting.
No doubt about that. Did you, with these opposing team players, was there chat about, hey, I'm planning on doing this. Are you all right with it? Or was it all on the fly?
Most was on the fly.
Yeah.
Most was on the fly. It's interesting with Charles. He got to where he would walk by my room, walking in, knock on my door. He knew where I was. He's like, "Hey, man, what are we doing tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, just think this when I go out there. Just think this.
Yeah.
Or remember this when I go out there." And
That's
he's like, "Okay." He's like, "You're not going to tell me anymore?" I'm like, "Nope, you'll know."
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch it up a little bit. So, favorite Nuggets player. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an interaction thing.
Can I go back just a little bit? I did have some interactions with Shaq. That guy, he is a massive individual. He's great. The first time I got near him, he was lining up for a free throw.
Which he probably missed.
Well, no, he was on the baseline. He was, not shooting at the time.
Okay.
So he's got his hands on his knees, and I walk right up to him, and he looks over at me with the most serious, like scary look, like, "I'm gonna kill you." And then he gave that big old Shaq smile. I started laughing. I laughed out loud in there. He was great, but to shake his hand, oh my gosh, you feel like you're a baby.
Right.
His hand is so big. I got a picture with him where his hand's on my shoulder. It is bigger than my head.
That's wild.
His hand.
So wild.
He's just a great guy, though. I've sat and talked with him several times. Great guy outside, and of the cameras and things like that. Great guy.
Super cool to hear.
Yeah.
In the article that we keep mentioning, you talk about a moment with Jordan as well, where he signed the ball mid-game and you kick it into the crowd, so you can go check that out. But just because we're talking superstars in the NBA, the other guy that comes to mind that a lot of people are probably wondering about is Kobe. Did you have some interactions with Kobe?
I did. And, no matter what no matter what people say about Kobe, one-on-one, super nice guy.
Yeah.
His last game in Denver, I ended up talking to him for like 20 minutes outside my room.
Yeah.
And he signed some things for us. We took pictures and everything. I'd taken pictures with him before. We'd chatted before, got to know him a little bit, and really had a good relationship with him.
That's cool. That's really cool. All right. So now favorite Nuggets player.
Okay. Going back, my heart goes out to Kembe.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. Great guy. Loved him from day one. Loved him, and funny, great sense of humor. And can I tell you one story about him? Real quick?
I'd love to.
I don't know if I've said this before, but we were at a school when he was brand new in the league. We were at an elementary school up north, gym full of kids. They're all sitting crisscross applesauce, and they said, "We're going to take questions now, or you can ask Dikembe some questions now." And he steps up there, and every hand goes up. All these kids, a sea of hands. And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to answer questions." He goes, "And I don't want no dumb questions." Oh, it was so funny to see all these kids, their faces just kind of melt a little bit, and all these hands just sink, just slowly sink. He'd never heard that. There's no dumb questions
For sure,
bit
yeah.
that we're all told. But great guy, and so just has had an effect on the world. From there, I got to know like all these old guys. LaFonso Ellis, Mahmoud, knew all those guys. And then moving forward, gosh, say what you will about JR. He and I had a great deal where, every intro's run, give him a shoulder, bump and things like that. I never really hung out. People always ask, did you always, hey, did you hang out with the players? I never really did. And there were some good guys. There's also some that just, when they called them the Thuggets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kenyon Martin.
Yeah. Great guy. He's funny. He and I know each other now, and I had a situation with him where, he used to, he gave me some jabs along the way, but I got back at him. He was coming back to do the first shot of the game.
Okay.
And when these guys would come back and do that, they always ask, hey, can anybody get them to dunk? Like Birdman came back.
Right.
And hey, will you dunk? Nah, they don't want to dunk.
Yeah.
And I said at one point, when it came to Kenyon Martin's tonight, can anybody help, with this? Does anybody know him well enough? I go, yeah, I'll take care of that. They're like, really? You know him? Yes, I know him, but I mean, trust me, he'll do it.
Right.
And so we go out there, and I'm handing him the ball, but I leaned into him, and I whispered, I said, hey, man, dunk it. He goes, nah, man, I'm not going to dunk it. And I go, yeah, dunk it, man. I said, I use a choice foul word. I said, yeah, well, you're a blank if you don't. He's like, oh, it's like that, right? I'm like, yes, it is. So I challenged him right there.
Then he dunked it?
And he dunked it.
He dunked it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you can't be called that and not dunk it.
Just because you brought him up, what were your interactions like with Birdman? Because he's such a, pun
guy.
intended, colorful individual. I'm assuming that he would be a fun guy to interact with.
Love him.
Yeah.
Yep. In fact, I just saw him at the Broadmoor this last winter.
That's cool.
And ran into him, and he's like, Ken, what's up, man? And so we had a good little interaction there, and I always loved him. I'll tell you one experience I had with him that just shows what kind of guy he is. He was with Miami.
Yeah.
Had come back. We're playing here, and I went out to go do this bit where I was having this little boy shoot, and he can't make it. I'm lifting him up. He can't make it. And, I'm trying to lift him up as high as I can. Right. He cannot make it. So I go over to our bench, and I'm like, hey, can anybody, lift this kid up? Nope. I'm like, come on, man. Lift this kid up. Right. Lift this kid up, going to different players. And they're like, no. I start walking down the other end of the court, and here's Birdman. I'm like, Birdman will do it. I walk over there, hand this kid.
He did it.
Birdman lifts him up. This kid dunks it, brings down the house. I'm like, come on. Our players wouldn't, and he did. He came right out of his huddle. And so say what you will about him, man. I love that guy.
That's cool.
We did a charity. I was involved in this charity. It was a small charity just, a year ago. No, 2 years ago now. And trying to get all kinds of things. I called up Chauncey. He sent me some shoes. I call up Birdman, and he signs a jersey for me.
That's cool.
So we can send those things out. I mean, they're great guys. Chauncey, awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to hear. Denver guy too, so that makes you want to root
Yes.
for him a little harder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love to
yeah,
hear
every
that.
day.
I love to hear that.
Chauncey's awesome. He always takes the time. Scotty Brooks,
Yeah.
I got to know him. I always talk to him when he comes to town.
What about George Carl? He's still in town too, right?
George Carl.
Is he active?
I love that guy, but man, he's a loose cannon.
Is he?
He thinks I'm a loose cannon. That guy's a loose cannon. You put him on a mic, he'll say anything.
Yeah.
And it's when it came to me, it was some off the wall thing that he would blurt out on a mic and, talk about this guy right here. He'd say something and like, what?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I know there's.
Can I say one more thing
Yes.
about George Carl? So one game, George is our head coach. Now he was with the Sonics, right?
Yeah.
So I got a baby out of the crowd and I go out there and none of the referees would take the baby. I would do that. I'd take a baby out there and
Right.
leave him with the referee.
Yeah.
Well, this time George is standing out on the floor and I walked over and I was like, hey, want to hold a baby? He took this baby and started holding this baby. The game started again.
Are you still holding the baby?
He's still holding the baby over there. He's coaching,
Yeah.
holding this baby for a little bit, and then he finally walks over and hands it off to somebody. Gets back to the mom and everything. We got threatened to be fined for that.
Because he had the baby when the game
I
was
got
going.
threatened to be fined with that. Actually, yeah. They're like the other team, which was the Sonics,
Of course.
right? Thought we were. This is just before they moved to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And yeah, the coach of the other team was all offended, thinking that I had set this up. George was in on it, and we caught all kinds of heat over that.
Oh boy. So speaking of fines, and I know there's probably a list of these things, but dumbest thing in your mind that you ever did, and it could be because it caused injury, it could be just because it fell flat, but in your mind, what's the dumbest thing that you ever did?
Snowboarding down the steps of the arena.
Did you get hurt?
Oh yeah, that did not end well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got hurt, not bad, but I clipped when I wrecked. When I wrecked and started tumbling with this snowboard attached to me, there was one guy that leaned in and wanted to see everything, and I clipped him in the head with my snowboard.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Did-
Nice little gash on his forehead.
That's a
and
fan, yeah?
That's a fan. Yeah, he ended
What-
up to be a big attorney downtown, and yeah.
How'd that end?
Oh my gosh! Next morning. I was in the office with all our attorneys and
Yeah.
my bosses and HR and all that. And we've got this letter here from so and so, and he's. Yeah, I ended up doing his birthday parties, his
Oh,
kids'
yeah,
birthday
I
parties, grandkids' birthday parties.
Still doing them?
Yeah.
So the NBA, you talked about fines. Did you ever get fined, or what's the most trouble you got in with the league?
Oh man, I get fined all the time.
And you had to actually pay the fines out of your pocket?
Not out of my pocket. Usually the Nuggets pick those up.
Yeah.
And there was, yeah, just dumb stuff. It's just dumb stuff. It's like, pantsing a player as he's inbounding the ball.
Yeah, that
Probably not the smartest move on my part. Pinching a player's butt that was lined up for a free throw. He's ball bent over, and I'm walking by. I'm pinching his butt. I got fined again. Russell Westbrook. That guy.
he plays for the Nuggets now, Ken.
Yes, I know. I know. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably probably a good thing I'm not there. But yeah, as I'm walking off the court, I had I had a shirt that said "I'm with stupid,"
It pointed to him.
and he bumped into me and starts just unleashing the fury on me. And looking at the tape, man, he kind of leaned into me. And so I didn't even see him.
Yeah.
So I bump into him, and he just unleashes this fury of obscenities. And I'm like, geez, okay, settle down. And then all I did was like lean over, like, I was stupid. Fine. Yeah,
Oh.
fine for that.
Was there any other guys that just didn't like you? Like, I think of like the Sam Cassells of the world that they played it as though they didn't like you. Was that really the case?
There were a few times when, yeah, it was, get out of my face. It was,
Yeah.
push. I got a lot of shoves. There were referees that didn't like me either.
Yeah, I believe that. The
Yeah.
dude that was betting on games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had some referees just go off of me. But as I got established more
sure.
and things like that, they leaned into it, and I would get them to do all kinds of fun stuff.
Some of those referee skits were some of my favorites for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There was one though that I've told this before, but it's where I had a guy, my assistant. He was told never touch the game ball. Like when I'm going out to do a half court shot.
Yeah, it's a different ball.
Yeah. So no, when I would go out to do my half court shot, I had a thing there forever that I would use the game ball.
Oh.
Because I didn't want anybody ever thinking that it was a trick ball.
Oh, right,
I'd heard
right.
that. I'm like, come on. Like, how could that be a trick ball?
For sure.
So I would always use that just to, and it was usually fun, getting it from the referee or giving it back to him or whatever. Well, this one game, I had I went out to do the shot. The referee is talking to a player with the ball in his hand, in his arm, there, tucked under. And I look over, and here is my assistant. Hey, excuse me, ref, can I get the ball for Rocky's shot? Oh, and then I see the steam come out of this referee's ears, and he unleashes on my assistant, walks away from the player, shouting at me, don't you, interrupt me when I'm talking to. He thought I was all in on it. He sets the ball down, place is booing. He's yelling at me, don't you dare touch that ball. Don't you dare. And don't you embarrass me either. I'm like, you're embarrassing yourself.
Yeah, for real.
So I stood at half court and just took his, berating as he walked by me, and he goes over and stands there, and I look back at my assistant. I'm like, go get me a ball. Like, what are you doing standing there?
Yeah.
Go get me a ball. He runs across the court. By the time the buzzer's happening, he's running out of the tunnel. I got it. Everybody's watching this. They've been booing for a minute while they're at the referee. And I'm like, I call it off. Like, no.
Didn't even shoot it that night?
No. Well, I did. I called it off. I walked back in the back, got on the headset. I'm like, I need this next time out. I don't care what's happening.
Right.
You got to give me this next time out. In the meantime, I said, go get me a real ball. He had gotten me this rubber one. I'm like, I don't throw it with those. So get the real ball. Timeout happens. I walk out there showing everybody, this is my ball. I got it. And walk out there to center court. He's standing over there. And I just nodded at him like, I'm acknowledging you. Hello. And like almost as to say, this one's for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Please tell me you made it first shot.
First shot, sunk it. I turned back slowly and then just started walking with my head down right at the referee. I get close. I put my hand out. He's folded arms and everything. He finally puts his arm out, shakes my hand, and he goes, touche, Rocky, touche. Big old smile and everything. So ended well.
I love that. There's a lot of people that wonder this, so I'm going to ask this question, and we'll kind of end it up. This is my stupid Dikembe Mutombo question. Did you ever have an accident? Could you get to the bathroom at all times? Because some of these times you had to wear the suit for a long time, right?
Luckily, I never had an accident. I had some close calls. Sometimes I would be sick with an upset stomach.
Oh,
Sometimes
right.
I would have the flu. Sometimes it was ready to come out both ends, and I would race in the back, and usually I made it. And
Talk about the Michael Jordan flu game. Rocky had plenty of those flu games.
I did.
That's good for you. And no one ever knows those kind of things, right? That's wild to me. That's pretty crazy.
We just found some footage of behind the scenes. Cade was filming, and he said, "Hey, you got to see this." It was me walking out, or it was Rocky walking out of the locker room, going out, doing the Nutcracker, and go out there, did this great Nutcracker, did a backflip off the balance beam, blah blah blah, end with racking myself, walk off, go in the back, and take the head off, and I am coughing, I am so sick, I got a fever of like 104, I'm dying back there, and at first I was thinking, man, I remember this is great, this is great footage, and yeah, I did a backflip and everything. Well, I usually didn't do that, but
So wild. I could talk to you for days and days and days, but we should probably wrap it up a little bit. We'll just do this again some other time and tell some
Sean,
more
it's been
stories.
a pleasure, man. This has been great.
Yeah, Ken, thank you, man. Thank you for
appreciate
all
it.
the years of entertainment. I mean, when I think of icons of Denver, I think of like Jake Jabs probably comes to mind. Rocky's up there. Casa Bonita is not a person, but you're like up there with the Casa Bonitas and the Jake Jabs of Denver. So thank you for doing all of this over the years, man.
That's very kind. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. Kenn Solomon, formerly Rocky.